You wrote the rule, it's here in your Claude.md file, plain English, and Claude Code ignores it anyway. It keeps generating plain component when you said server. It keeps reaching use effect when your rule say don't. This is not random. There are 3 specific reasons React rules get ignored, and all 3 are in this file right now. Let's fix them. If your Claude code keeps ignoring your Claude.md, if it keeps breaking your React convention even though you write it down, then you do not have a prompting problem. You have a Claude.md problem. The next 10 minutes, I will show you the 4 locations a particular rule can live in and the 7 section that makes rules followable and the 3 mistakes silently killing your compliance. The last part is where most of your ignore rules are hiding. Stick around for it. This is the real Claude.md file. Vague rules, prefer server-side rendering, use the UI library, keep it typed, and follow the React best practices. I'm going to execute a particular prompt to generate the user profile component with an edit mode. It shows the user name and email and an edit button that toggle inline editing. Put it in the source component. That's it. Let's execute it. Here is what it generated. Claude could have split this into 2 pieces. The display is one component and the editable form isolate it as a small client component. Instead, Claude generated a single component. The vague rule, prefer server-side rendering, was not specific enough to push the Claude to split this into 2 pieces. Look at this use effect. It is taking the copy of the user prop into state every single time. But we need that copy when user clicks edit, not every time. This unnecessary copy is exactly what creates the bug. Watch. The user props changes from outside, maybe an API refresh, maybe a parent update. React renders the component immediately, but the draft state is still the old value. The screen paints with stale data. For one frame, the user sees wrong email. Only after the paint, the use effect runs, it calls setDraft, and the draft finally catches up. But setDraft triggered a second render. The screen repaints. Now it's correct. One prop change, one effect run, but 2 renders and 1 wasted frame of wrong data. That's the use effect anti-pattern. This is exactly happening to you as well. It is not a Claude code problem. By the end of this video, you will know why. Let's start with reason 0. Before Claude can ignore your React rule, here's the part no one checks. Is the rule even in the room or not? Claude.md file live in 4 locations. Your React rule only load from the right one. This is the list of location with the precedence. The first one is managed policy, org level control. Your IT team owns it. You cannot touch it. For sample, this is how it looks. Security related things like do not log API key or secret key, kind of. Let's move on. The second one is Claude.md file in the root level in your project. This is where your React convention should live. Server-side component by default, props interface or named with props, suffix, everything. This particular file travels with your code base through Git. Every contributor get these rules. Third, user level Claude.md, which you can open by /.claude/claude.md. Once you open this file, you can mention your personal rules across every project. This is a trap. Here, user level, you prefer server component in this file. Then you open Next.js project level Claude.md file and says use client for interactive component. Project wins. You never enters the session. 4. Local Claude.local.md file in your project root. It is git ignored. Just for this repo. Good for rules that only applies here, like don't touch this particular path. It is being deprecated. Skip storybook updates for now. Rules that matters. Manage rules wins everything. Project level beats user level. Local is your personal override for this repo. Remember the broken component you just saw. If your React rule were sitting in the user file and your project file didn't have them, the rule was never in the room. Most ignored React rules are just misplaced rules. Reason 1, rules written to be ignored. Now the rule is loaded, Claude still skips it. That's the reason 1. The rule is written in a way Claude cannot reliably follow. Here is how I structured Claude.md so the rule actually sticks. 7 sections. Section 1, stack. Next.js 15, React 19, TypeScript strict mode, Tailwind v4. Claude needs to know the world before any rule makes sense. Section 2, commands. Here I have mentioned a list of basic commands Claude can execute directly. Claude Code decides when to run command based on the task. For example, If you ask Claude to fix the failing test, it will likely run PNP test to confirm the fix worked. Section 3, Architecture. Concrete behavior, not pipes. This is where most Next.js code base go wrong. Most of the developers create client-side component. We don't want to think about server-side rendering. Claude Code also follows the same pattern, but we need to push back. See here, I just mentioned server component by default. Add use client only to the smallest leaf component that strictly requires interactivity. If a component shows data but does not need interactivity, it must stay as a server component. Notice the word leaf, not the whole card, not the parent. The smallest possible piece. Even the edit button needs state, then isolate it. The form needs typing, then isolate it. Everything else stays on the server. Section 4, Component Conventions. Props interfaces are named with the props suffix. For example, user code props. One component per file, named export only. No default export for components. Keep interactive client component small and focused. And the rule that does real work. When display component would be forced to become a client component just because of one interactive piece, extract that piece into its own file. Hold this rule in your head. It comes back at the end of the video. Section 5, Styling. Tailwind utility classes only. No styled component, no CSS module. It's all about styling things. Section 6, State Rules. This is the section that fixes the most ignored rules. This is all about a particular component state, how we need to maintain. No use effect for derived state. No use effect to copy a props into state. No use effect that calls a setter in response to a prop change. No global context for app state. No any types. See here, every line is specific enough to verify. This is the whole trick. A rule can check is a rule Claude follows. A vague rule is a rule Claude easily drifts from. This whole set of rules is going to remove the unwanted use effect in the upcoming prompt. Section 7, Editable Form Pattern. This is the section that produced the clean component you will see at the end. The display reads the real prop. The editable form is a separate small client component. So here we just mentioned to make a separate component if it is an editable form. The draft is seeded from the prop at the click. Remember the broken component? Every time we are making the copy of the user into the draft. But here we have mentioned the draft is seeded from the props at the click, never via use effect. So we are not making the copy of the user through use effect. Whenever the user toggle the edit button, only that time the fresh user will get into the state. Notice the shape of the whole CLAUDE.md file. I'm not telling Claude what code to write. I'm just mentioning the pattern to follow. That's the difference between the rule and the transcript. Under 200 lines total, hold that number, it will come back in 2 minutes. Reason 2, rules that droned out. Now the rule is loaded, it is well written, but still Claude can skip it. Because your React rules competing with 40 other lines to get attention. Here are 3 features that fix that. Number 1, path scope rules. You can create .claude/rules folder in the project root. Inside that folder, you can create your own MD file. Inside each file, I have mentioned a particular path. You write rule file that only load when Claude touches matching files. For example, this component MD file rules only load when Claude works on the component. Your component rules are not diluted by your API rules. Your rules will load at the right time. 2, add symbol inputs. In the project root CLAUDE.md file, we can pull other file rules. We can mention like this at doc/git-convention.md. Inside this convention.md file, I have mentioned all the Git related rules like how to follow the branch name, never commit directly to main, those set of basic Git convention rules. It will help to split the bloated file into focused module, so your styling rules will not get buried under your deployment instruction. Number 3, auto memory. Claude writes its own notes on patterns it picks up as you work. You can run /memory to see what it has written. It won't catch everything, so for rules that genuinely matter, still write them explicitly. It is just a backup, not a system. 3 mistakes killing compliance. Mistake 1, over 200 lines. CLAUDE.md file loads into contact every session. Anthropic own doc says longer file reduce adherence. Past 200 lines, your rules start competing each other for attention and losing. Better we can use path scope rules to split. Mistake 2, vague rules. For example, format properly, does nothing. Use two-space indentation, works. Follow good patterns, does nothing, it will not work. And as we mentioned in the previous section, no use effect for a derived state, works. If you cannot verify it, Claude cannot follow it. Mistake 3, conflicting rules. Two flavor of this. One is conflicting rule in the same CLAUDE.md file in the project root folder. Then there is no precedence. Claude will decide it, which one to pick. Second, across file. Project beats user. Maybe in your perspective, you think you have mentioned everything in the user CLAUDE.md file. The rule in your user file does nothing. It never runs. In your perspective, Claude ignored what you wrote. Either way, audit your all files every week before that makes you to spend more time. So now, remember the broken component which we generated from the start. After all this update, let's run the same prompt again, creating the user profile card. I'm executing it. It's done now. I could see two components generated. One is for view mode, the other one is for edit mode. The user profile card is the parent component. Inside that is editing toggle on. At that moment, it is trying to mount the user profile edit form, and there is only one single line on cancel. It just making it to false to unmount the whole edit form component. One thing what we have mentioned is followed properly. There is no use effect in the parent as well as the child component. And if you see in the user profile card edit form, the child component, whenever it mounts freshly, at that moment, the draft is derived from the user props. If you notice the second thing, both the components are still client-side component. It didn't generate the server component. User edit form, we can understand it is an interactive component, so we cannot make it as a server component. But user profile card, parent component, it can be a server component, but there is one interactive element in this page, this one, edit button. If we extract this as a separate component, there is a chance we can make it as a server component. So no use effect anywhere. The form in its own file, mounting freshly when edit starts, unmounting when it ends. The client boundary is isolated to the leaf, not wrapped around the whole card. And cancelling the edit mode is in one line because the source never touched. Finally, the rules did not change. Where and how you write them does. The full CLAUDE.md template is on my GitHub, link in the description. Fork it, strip whatever you don't need, make it yours. Subscribe for more front-end plus AI updates so you don't miss it. See you in the next one.